It is time for another coveted double feature where we take a look at two movies that I cannot justify spending the time to talk about in one video, and we put them into one video because it's easier. We have the new Shudder original Stop Motion and the new Peter Farrelly film Ricky Stanicky. So let's start with Stop Motion, which is just a more interesting movie. This is something I saw in a cinema. There was a showing playing near me. I believe it's available on streaming now. It is through Shudder. And I wanted to check this one out. I knew nothing about it, but the title, Stop Motion, which is an art form that almost feels like it's dead in today's climate. So I wanted to see what that was about. It's a horror movie through Shudder, so I'm like, hey, is there going to be like an evil doll that comes to life? And we're going to see like a stop motion puppet like attack somebody or something? Kind of. This movie's a little more psychological than that, which is kind of it's kind of more than what I was expecting for this film. I went into this expecting we're gonna see like a Chucky thing, or it's gonna be like a doll that's moving. This was more like a young woman dealing with like the psychology of being her own person and how that fundamentally breaks her when her world starts to fall apart. So we follow our main character. Her mother is this like auteur stop motion animator. She makes these types of films where it's like a cyclops makes a deal with the devil and can no longer, they see their own death or something. Her mother gets into an accident, and her mother is kind of going to be dead throughout the piece. So she has to decide if she wants to finish making her mother's film or if she should break into her own artistry and make something for herself. Along the way, she starts to realize that she's kind of slipping into her own insanity as to what she wants to make this piece be, and the events that take place within the narrative of the stop motion picture she's trying to make start emulating what actually might be happening to her. And that's kind of fun, It is through Shudder, and it is a very specific feeling of a movie that we're trying to give. So it hits a lot of the familiar beats that like the dismissive boyfriend, the people who are like, ooh, she's a little bit different and outsidery. It does really good for what it's trying to convey, though. I think the movements of the camera are really cool. The script is surprisingly interesting, and it plays with this theme really well. Like, the most interesting part of this movie is the way it handles stop motion as a medium, because it feels like it's more popular than what it actually is. There's like a whole like commercial division where people use it to make commercials and stuff. And our main character, she's like, I'm too like a tourist and in my own head, and I'm never gonna like sell out to commercials. And you're like, this is giving a lot of credit to stop motion. I love the medium and I'm glad it exists, but we're treating this like it's like a top thing in the world where everybody loves it and supports it, when a lot of people of this generation don't really think about that at all. And that's kind of like a weird element to play with. But it is called stop motion, so the use of stop motion in this movie has to at least be impressive. And it is. It starts off very limited, where you're like, oh, we got like a couple of like creatures and dolls here. It gets more bombastic, more loud throughout the piece, and it works really well. It handles itself really well. It plays with itself really well. It looks really cool. Like, there's full-on animated sequences with the stop motion that look really damn impressive, are really cool, handled beautifully. That's all amazing. All of that stuff is truly, wholeheartedly, really cool and fun to see. And it's more like a psychological horror than like a straight-up horror movie. It does get into some kind of slasher-adjacent stuff, but it's a little more psychological. And that is not what I went in expecting this to be, because the poster's like, here's a creepy doll, and it's like ooh, what is this? But it's more about like what it means to put yourself in your art, and sometimes how that can like destroy you, and you cannot escape your own insanity when it comes to creating a piece of art. And hey, that's fun. I like that kind of story, so I'm not against that thing existing. I buy it. I get it. I think it's probably earnest and true. People get lost in their artwork all the time. You can never truly escape it sometimes, so you're kind of like trapped in that bubble. And that is believable. So I have nothing truly negative to say about this film. It is very stylized, and it is going to be, for some specific people. I did see some comments that were like, this is really sick and twisted. It's for the sickos that know. There are definitely selective moments like that. This is hardly like a Terrifier level of, low budget horror thing where it's perverted at times. This is more, let's just talk about stop motion for a minute and have fun with the genre and play with it, and maybe that in itself will be interesting to some people. It was interesting to me, so I'm sure other people are going to like it too. This was an interesting one, and if you have the ability to see it, it kills like 93 minutes, and you're going to get something cool. Even if it's just looking at some interesting use of stop motion, that's a pretty cool thing to see. So I do think that is worth it in some capacity. So, stop motion, I am going to give a 6 out of 10. Okay, now let's move over to this new movie. This is from MGM Studios, which is now like a banner you can just see exclusively on Amazon Prime. It's annoying. This is Ricky Stanicky, the new Peter Farrelly movie, and it's kind of crazy that he comes from winning Best Picture in 2018 of Green Book, a bad movie, to making the greatest beer run in the world, or whatever, the greatest beer run in history. That Zac Efron movie where he's like, I got to get beer somewhere. Now comes Ricky Stanicky, a straight-to-streaming comedy, which also stars Zac Efron. It also stars John Cena. Do you remember like those viral clips of John Cena where he was like in like a skirt and high heels? That's from this movie. So it's out. And it's the story of three best friends who every time they want to get out of a situation or want to like get on a plane to go on a trip somewhere or blame something on somebody else, they make up this fake friend called Ricky Stanicky. Well, things get a little too complicated, so they have to hire an actor to play Ricky Stanicky. That becomes John Cena. And, yeah. It's been a while since I've seen this level of comedy. Like, we don't really make these types of comedies anymore, let alone in a theater. This doesn't exist in a cinema anymore. These go straight to streaming. But I started to think, like, if I start watching them, maybe there'll be the push to put them in cinemas. I hope not, because this was a bad movie. This was an insane movie. For all the wrong reasons. It definitely feels like there was no budget, no time, and no effort put into this. There are literal long pauses in between sequences where it feels like we're just letting somebody say their line of dialogue. Nobody feels like they're having any real fun. Nobody feels like we put any effort into the jokes. That's the other thing. 6 people wrote this script. That is an insane number of people to work on a script. So that just cleans it up so much where nothing feels interesting. There's so many just like random dick jokes or like masturbation jokes or just stupid jokes where it should be more fun, but it's so lame and loose and doesn't have anything going for it. The lighting looks so specific and too clean. Nothing truly funny happens. Nothing truly interesting happens. And the resolution is just so exhausting. Where I'm like, did anybody really learn their lesson as opposed to go through the motions of learning a lesson? Does it feel like anything truly happened? Look, I'm always here for Zac Efron. He's coming off of a Geek Wave Award nomination for Best Actor for me. So to see him do this, it's an oof for me. Where I'm like, dude, you're almost better than this now. I know you're one of like the last guys that's been playing in the genre because that's what your teenage audience wanted from you when you left High School Musical. But you're better than this now. And Cena is really good with what he's given. He's the kind of guy that can make a mountain out of a molehill. He can just take what you give him and turn it into something special. And he really tries. He gets really close to making it like interesting. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie happens and you have 3 leads who don't have any chemistry, don't feel like they're friends. I don't get it. I don't get half what we're doing here. It's an hour and 55 minutes. You could cut this down to 90 and take out like all the pauses between people saying their lines and maybe cut out like half of a storyline that doesn't go anywhere and maybe you'd have something. But this type of movie, it just doesn't feel real anymore. And if we actually pushed it harder to be something special, then perhaps there'd actually be something to say here. But instead, we get this like desensitized whatever the hell that doesn't have any real emotion put into it or any heart. It feels like half an idea that would have made sense in 2006. You could probably do this with John Cena in 2006, and it would feel just as interesting. But it's truly stupid and unfunny and doesn't do anything for anybody. It feels like we're just wandering in the wilderness, just looking for an idea, and 6 people couldn't find one. The ending is so bizarre, because they just accept it. You're like, oh, this guy. And there's like, I don't even want to talk about it. It just really sucks that that's what all of these people have come to. Farrelly, he could do better. The types of films he makes don't get made anymore. Efron and Cena could do other stuff. They have, but they're kind of stuck in this zone for the moment. I hope they can escape it, because dear God, I do not want any more Ricky Stanickys. I am glad to see Cena promoting this movie because he does care about his craft, but fuck, God, it's exhausting. So, Ricky Stanicky, I'm going to give a 4 out of 10. And that's it for this double feature, nice and quick. 2 movies that have stuff to talk about, but not really. Now, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.